Brothers and sisters, welcome to this very important webinar addressing COVID-19 vaccines, and thank you for your unwavering service and dedication during this unprecedented pandemic. Your union has worked tirelessly to provide our 324,000 members with the most accurate and up-to-date information, tools, and resources to keep you and your families and communities safe. We've developed comprehensive resources and have worked with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, along with NIOSH, to educate you on the coronavirus and, more recently, COVID-19 vaccines and why it's important for our members on the front lines to be vaccinated. We know the decision to vaccinate is a personal one. That's why we need to educate our members on the facts about the vaccine so you can make an informed decision and stay healthy on the job and don't pass the virus on to others. To date, we've had 39 members die in the line of duty due to COVID-19, with tens of thousands infected and in quarantine or isolation. We need to do a better job to protect one another. As your general president, I urge everyone to understand the role of the vaccine in stopping this pandemic. I received my vaccine in March. I chose to get it to protect the people around me. Our presentation today, led by our knowledgeable staff and subject matter experts in health and safety, will give you the facts on the COVID-19 vaccines. Following the presentation, we'll then open it up to answer your questions. Thank you for your interest in this very important webinar, and stay safe out on the front lines.
Thank you, General President Kelly, for those opening remarks, and thank you all for joining us today for our COVID-19 vaccine webinar. The COVID-19 team is made up of myself, John Nemec, the Deputy Director of the Occupational and Behavioral Health Services, Robert McClintock, the Director of Fire and EMS Services, Raquel Siegel, the Deputy Director of Occupational Health and Medicine, and Derek Balkin, a Senior Firefighter Paramedic from Local 867 and Executive Board Member of the United Firefighters of Winnipeg. As the IAFF COVID-19 team, we are pleased to present this webinar to address the vaccines available to our members in both the United States and Canada, followed by a Q&A session to answer questions submitted by IAFF members. Please note that some information covered in this webinar may change as research is conducted to better understand the COVID-19 vaccines. The information presented in this webinar is current as of today. We will have an overview of the COVID-19 vaccines to include what they are and how they are developed, why there are concerns, and the current US and Canadian infection rates. To begin, we will give an update on the current status of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since before the first COVID-19 case was identified in the US, we have worked hard to gather information to ensure you, our members, have the most up-to-date information to combat this deadly disease. Despite the desire to return to normalcy, the pandemic is not over. We continue to see cases of COVID-19 increasing in different parts of the United States and Canada. This is a constantly evolving pandemic. We must remain vigilant and not let COVID-19 fatigue take over. In the last year, multiple vaccines have been developed, and while vaccines are now widely used, many have concerns about how they were developed and if it is safe to receive the vaccine. Many of our sisters and brothers have already been vaccinated. Our goal today is to discuss these vaccines so you can make an informed decision if you have not yet been vaccinated. The IAFF's current position strongly recommends members and their families get the vaccine. While the IAFF understands there is vaccine hesitancy, our position is based on the latest science to strongly recommend that all IAFF members receive a COVID-19 vaccine to prevent the spread of disease to their families and others, as well as assist in administering vaccines in jurisdictions where appropriate measures are taken to protect the health and safety of our members and their rights on the job. We are aware this is a personal decision. This webinar is designed to provide information on the safety and efficacy of the vaccines and why we support vaccination. As always, We remain a resource to help you navigate the research and answer questions. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Raquel Siegel to explain vaccines and how they were developed.
Thank you, John. To discuss the vaccines, I want to first address the impact this pandemic has had on our members. To date, we have had 39 members die in the line of duty due to COVID-19, and tens of thousands infected and in quarantine and isolation. These statistics demonstrate the need for vaccines to prevent staffing shortages, members facing long hauler symptoms, and death. Currently, there are 3 vaccines that are approved in the United States: Johnson & Johnson, which I will refer to as J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer. In Canada, 4 vaccines are approved: AstraZeneca, J&J, Moderna, and Pfizer. You may be asking, why is so much emphasis being placed on everyone getting the COVID-19 vaccine? The main reason is because it is a safe way to build protection without the risk of severe illness. Those who have had COVID-19 may have some natural protection, but it is unclear how long that protection lasts, as it varies from person to person. But the conservative estimate for protection is about 90 days or 3 months. In comparison to the vaccines, the duration of protection remains unknown, but current data have shown that the vaccines provide effective protection for more than 6 months. Additionally, none of the vaccines are 100% effective at preventing COVID-19. This is common with most vaccines. The fact is, even if the vaccine do not completely prevent contracting COVID-19, they are extremely effective and scientifically proven to prevent against severe symptoms and hospitalizations. When it comes to developing a vaccine, there is much concern around the rapid pace. But truthfully, this process did not just start when COVID-19 became a global pandemic. Vaccine technology has been studied for decades. Viral vector vaccines have been used since the 1970s and are your traditional vaccines such as influenza and hepatitis A. mRNA vaccines are newer technology, but they too have been studied over the last couple of years. Because of previous research on vaccines before the COVID-19 pandemic began, researchers were able to move swiftly and use previous coronavirus research for SARS and MERS to develop these effective vaccines. With a head start and ample federal funding, these vaccines were created quickly, and trials began shortly after to understand the efficacy in preventing COVID-19. 3 vaccines have received emergency use authorizations, or EUA, under the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA. The EUA only applies in the United States for the J&J, Pfizer, and Moderna vaccines. An EUA facilitates the availability and use of medical countermeasures, such as the vaccines, during a public health emergency, such as this current COVID-19 pandemic. The EUA means that vaccines can be approved by the FDA quickly, compared to the traditional FDA approval process. But this doesn't mean that the process cuts corners when it comes to evaluating the vaccine data or the risks and benefits. To meet the EUA requirements, researchers must complete the 3 phases of vaccine trials and test tens of thousands of adults from diverse backgrounds and ages. In Canada, the Public Health Agency of Canada approves the vaccines based on their supplied data. So now I'm going to turn this over to Rob McClintock to provide a deeper dive into the vaccines.
Thank you, Raquel. As previously mentioned, there are 4 approved vaccines, 3 in the United States and 4 in Canada. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are mRNA vaccines. These COVID-19 vaccines are designed to help the body identify the unique spike proteins found in each coronavirus particle. The work by carrying genetic material that teaches our cells how to produce harmless spike proteins that are found on the surface of the COVID-19 virus. This helps your immune system recognize and produce antibodies to fight the virus that causes COVID-19 and reduces your risk of contracting COVID-19. These vaccines require 2 doses. The second dose for Pfizer is 21 days after the first shot, and Moderna is 28 days after the first shot. The J&J vaccine and AstraZeneca vaccine, like the Pfizer-Moderna vaccines, reduce the risk of serious illness from COVID-19 and cannot cause a COVID-19 infection. They do differ, however, as they are viral vector vaccines that use a modified, harmless version of a different virus that instructs human cells to make the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, then triggers an immune response. These vaccines do not cause COVID-19 and do not use a live virus. They too help the body create the spike protein to trigger an immune response. AstraZeneca is a 2-dose vaccine and the J&J is a 1-dose vaccine. The mRNA vaccines are a little more effective at preventing COVID-19 than the viral vector vaccines, but all 4 vaccines are very effective at preventing serious COVID-19 illness and hospitalizations. There are several common side effects to the vaccines that may occur after receiving the shot. You may experience flu-like symptoms, including chills, aches, fever, and fatigue. You also may experience pain at the injection site. These typically resolve within 24 to 48 hours. What is not as common are the rare blood clots that have been associated with the viral vector vaccines, AstraZeneca and J&J, that have led to pauses in their distribution and age restrictions put in place. Another rare common side effect to all the vaccines is having an allergic reaction. Although rare, the necessary steps ensure the safety of those who receive it. The mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, have had no cases of blood clots. Now let's talk about the variants. When a virus widely circulates in a population, causing many infections, this increases the opportunities for a virus to evolve. The virus is constantly replicating, and this increases the opportunity to undergo changes or mutations. Typically, most viral mutations have little to no impact on the virus's ability to cause infections and disease. But depending on where the changes are located in the virus's genetic material, they may affect a virus's properties such as transmission. For example, it may spread more or less easily, or severity. For example, it may cause more or less severe disease. All the vaccines are expected to provide some protection against these variants, but they may be less effective against them. As the disease continues to mutate, more variants will likely develop. This is why there is some conversation about booster shots. Why it is important to get the vaccine to stop variants. As more people are vaccinated, public health organizations and agencies expect virus circulation to decrease, leading to fewer mutations. Even if the vaccines are less effective against the variants, they still show some protection and will slow the spread of COVID-19 and reduce the ability to mutate. Now I would like to turn this over to Derek Balkin to highlight key facts and resources regarding the vaccines.
Thank you, Rob. Brothers and sisters, vaccines are an important component of ending this global pandemic. And while we've covered a lot here today, here are a few more key facts about COVID-19 vaccines. COVID-19 vaccines do not carry the risk of causing disease in the vaccinated person. In other words, you will not get COVID-19 from your vaccine. The genetic material delivered from COVID-19 vaccines will not affect or interact with your DNA. Neither will the viral vector vaccines nor the mRNA vaccines enter the nucleus of the cell where your DNA is stored. Therefore, the vaccines do not interact with your own DNA. All COVID-19 vaccines will help protect you from getting sick with COVID-19 and will protect against severe symptoms and hospitalization. They have varying effective rates at preventing disease, but they are all very effective against severe symptoms and hospitalizations. As mentioned earlier, natural immunity is unknown. Therefore, even if you've had COVID-19, you should still get the vaccine to provide protection. The vaccines will not cause you to test positive on a COVID-19 viral test. You may test positive on an antibody test, however, as the vaccines produce antibodies to protect you from COVID-19. Now let's discuss fully vaccinated members and continued prevention measures. Being fully vaccinated is defined as 2 weeks after your second dose in a 2-dose series like Moderna or Pfizer, or 2 weeks after a single-dose vaccine such as the Johnson & Johnson. As more people become vaccinated, we are starting to see the CDC ease restriction guidelines in the US. They've released guidance documents for fully vaccinated individuals on relaxing prevention measures in a home setting, in outdoor settings, when traveling, and when to isolate or quarantine post high-risk exposures. Following the release of CDC guidance, many states have relaxed their restrictions for fully vaccinated individuals as well. Unfortunately, there are no workplace guidance documents that are geared towards the unique workplace settings our IAFF members are in. Therefore, CDC and the IAFF strongly recommend that any individual not vaccinated should continue to follow the established prevention measures, such as wearing face masks, social distancing, washing your hands, and screening for signs and symptoms. If you are fully vaccinated, you do not have to practice the previously mentioned prevention measures, as the science shows these vaccines work and do prevent COVID-19. As we navigate this new normal, fully vaccinated individuals can continue to wear a mask and social distance from others if they choose to do so. There's nothing wrong with continuing to be cautious while navigating this pandemic. As we've seen the US Open, this varies greatly from Canada, where rolling lockdowns are continuing to occur. It is important to remember that the reduction in restrictions is a result of so many Americans being vaccinated. Again, we strongly encourage all IAFF members in Canada and the United States to get fully vaccinated. The IAFF is dedicated to providing our members with the best information possible. If you have a question that has not been answered in this presentation or in the Q&A portion to follow, please contact your district vice president. You can also contact the COVID-19 team at coronavirus@iaff.org. The CDC is also another valuable resource, and their website is cdc.gov/coronavirus. Health Canada's website is canada.ca/health. And the IAFF website also has firefighter-specific materials that can assist you individually or as a department. And that is iaff.org/coronavirus. Please follow your local, state, or provincial health department for information specific to your area. Brothers and sisters, thank you for listening to this webinar. And before we start the live Q&A, we have a personal story from two of our very own members.
Hi, my name's Mike Wist, local 1963. I'm been a firefighter for 29 years, and I got vaccinated because I had COVID. My story started back in April. My wife and I developed symptoms of COVID mid-April. She works at a clinic. I had gotten it from her. She brought it home, and we basically had symptoms together. 2 weeks later, she was back to work, feeling better. I was still struggling with symptoms. They lingered on 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I was retested, and I was still positive. Kind of unusual. Most people are done and back to normal activities in 2 weeks. I had to take 2 tests to return to work. So here I am 6 weeks after my first symptoms. I'm finally COVID negative, symptom free. However, I'm still fatigued. I'm still tired. I'm rehabbing. I'm going to take another 3 weeks to get back to work. I returned to work mid-June, feeling good, feeling confident, feeling like I can do my job, but something else was wrong with me. Went to my doctor, had some more tests done, found out I had developed asthma. The specialist said you can develop asthma from a virus, and I had obviously developed asthma from COVID. About 5 more months, I'm finally asthma free. I was able to kick it. Had trained all summer, rehabbing, working out, and was able to return to work finally end of October. Now, when the vaccine was coming out, I was ready to get it. Wasn't a question. I was one of the first in line to get it. Wanted to not get COVID again for obvious reasons. Want to protect my family, want to protect my career. Important to get the vaccine, at least for my story. That's why I got it. My whole family got vaccinated. Really no hesitation there. I follow the science, recommendations from the experts, and that's why my family and I are vaccinated.
Hello, my name is Clive DeHonering. I am secretary at Local 1092. That's the Ajax Fire Department here in Ontario, Canada. I'm here to talk to you about the coronavirus and the vaccinations attached to that. Here in Ajax, we've had our challenges with vaccinations. We are a very diverse community, and in that diversity, getting certain vaccinations to individuals are key. We've been affected as a local. Members, parents have passed away. The hardest thing is those members weren't able to see their parents before they passed away. They were in hospital, and obviously that affects them, but it affects us as a membership because we can see how much they're hurting. With the vaccination, we have the understanding that we go into people's homes. We go there at their hardest hour, hardest minute, and sometimes we have those interactions, and to protect ourselves is the vaccination. Making sure that we can talk to our community, making sure that we can see our families, making sure that we're not concerned about spreading the virus, but we're concerned about doing our job, going to our calls, and after the calls are done, after work is done, going home to see our family. We want to make sure that our families are protected, our members are protected, and our communities are protected through vaccination. So I encourage you, go get vaccinated. Protect yourself, protect your community, protect your family.
Brothers and sisters, we will now hear from Dr. Lori Moore Merrill from the International Public Safety Data Institute, who will be discussing her results from the recent 2021 Fire Service COVID-19 vaccination survey.
Thanks, Derek. Hello, everyone. In March of 2021, the IPSDI, along with the IAFF and the IAFC, conducted a survey of firefighters and paramedics throughout the US and Canada regarding their vaccine experience. Now, this was just 2 months after the vaccine rollout in January, and yet we had over 11,000 responses to the survey. I'd like to share some of those details with you today. As you can see, the distribution throughout the United States was relatively even, with more than 85% of the respondents having taken the vaccine. In Canada, about 55% having taken the vaccine. In total, we had over 11,000 respondents to the survey. This is significant, again, given that the vaccine had only rolled out 2 months prior. So what were their roles? Virtually every role in the fire department had responded. We see many only with firefighters, some EMS only, fire and EMS cross-trained dual role, as well as administration and even fire investigation. So what vaccine did they take? The majority of the respondents had in fact taken the Moderna vaccine, with Pfizer obviously being second. The J&J had not yet rolled out significantly in the United States at the time of the survey, and AstraZeneca only offered in Canada at this time. So let's look at the Moderna vaccine first. What were the side effects of the first dose? As you can see, much like reported in the media, the side effects being mostly arm pain from the injection, some mild body aches and chills, some fatigue, and some headache. But you'll notice that the side effects only lasted, the majority, less than 2 days. Again, significant for those who are putting off the vaccine because you're worried about side effects. The second dose, we can see the second dose of Moderna, a little bit greater effect as far as side effects, the arm pain again, body aches, more reporting fatigue, chills, and headache. This would be normal because your body's already begun to build some immune complex. And so you would react to the second dose a bit more significantly. But it's key to note that the effect's still lasting less than 2 days. What about the Pfizer vaccine? Same types reaction, arm pain being the most significant from the injection. We also see the fatigue, body aches, and headache reported as well in the first dose. Once again, the majority of the side effects lasting less than 2 days. The second dose of the Pfizer, we're seeing much the same that we did with the Moderna, with the arm pain, fatigue, headaches, body aches, and chills, a bit more significant, again, because your body is beginning to build that immune complex. Again, the side effects lasting less than 2 days. So why are firefighters not being vaccinated? Many reporting, in fact, a third, saying that it had not yet been offered. So when the survey was conducted in March, many of our states and in a lot of Canada did not have vaccine supply. And many of the firefighters were still being classed in phase 1B or greater. So they weren't on the list or were not eligible. You do see that some, about 16%, did not want the disease. Some were waiting for the J&J to be rolled out. Some were worried about the side effects, which I hope we have helped with that today. Some still believing that COVID is not severe. We have to overcome these kinds of understandings because the immunity that we need as a country, as a nation, both in the United States and Canada, is necessary so that we can move back to normal. So when the firefighters and paramedics who took the vaccine, again, more than 11,000 of your brothers and sisters were asked, would you recommend? You can see the overwhelming majority of those who took Moderna and Pfizer said yes. Again, the J&J had not yet been rolled out. So I ask you, please consider taking the vaccine. It is critically important to protecting yourself and each other. Thank you.